So we heard the Florida perspective there from Chris Doring just a little bit ago. Now we're going to turn to the Kentucky perspective as we get our insider on, Nick Roush from KSR. Nick, welcome back to the show, man. It's been a minute. How you been?
Appreciate being back on. Excited football's back, and Kentucky kind of eased their way in with a little action, but it gets real fast down in Gainesville this weekend.
Nick, I want to talk about this game because I thought of it as, yeah, it'll be interesting to go to the Swamp. But before the Utah game, I was like, that should be a victory for Kentucky. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. That Florida team looks salty. Maybe it's because the Pac-12 and you shouldn't expect much from them. But this game's gotten a little bit harder than I think I would have thought a couple weeks ago.
Well, especially when you look at the way that Florida played, like we knew Anthony Richardson was going to be a stud, right? He's a superstar waiting to happen. No idea what Dan Mullen was thinking. But what was surprising is just how physical they play. And I know that it is a little bit different in the Pac-12, but Kyle Whittingham, he plays kind of that SEC light football where it's very physical, very smash mouth. And Florida took it to the chin and they delivered some blows back. And on the other side of Kentucky, Kentucky had, I think, if you take away the sack yardage, only 75 yards rushing without Chris Rodriguez with a brand new offensive line where they're breaking in, filling three holes that left to the NFL last year. You didn't see that physical play that you had we've grown accustomed to in the Mark Stoops era. And that was something that I thought was a given. So in a way, it certainly has changed the equation when dissecting this game. Now, maybe Chris Rodriguez does come back. There's still some. It sounds like he's not going to play, but there might be a chance. So that the math and all of this, David, is really tough because of the way that Kentucky played in Week 1. It's just unlike anything we're used to seeing from the Wildcats.
Nick, that's the hard part to understand because at least from the press conferences I've seen, it's like it's the TBD when it comes to Rodriguez's return. So why wouldn't he play? And kind of remind the audience of why he's in trouble and others have been in trouble as well, I should say.
Well, and Rodriguez, I mean, he could have woke up and played all 12 games. He stayed healthy. He was going to be Kentucky's all-time leading rusher. Graduation night, he parties too hard. He gets arrested for a DUI. This isn't what he probably would have sat out a game for that DUI regardless. This is something else, something undisclosed that nobody will talk about that is pretty clear. Mark Stoops, he can't say what it is, and he's made it clear it's out of his hands. The team elected him as a captain. They also elected Jordan Wright a captain, a starting outside linebacker that's in his, I want to say, sixth season, super senior over there. They would be playing if Stoops had his choice, but it's up the chain of command, and it might even be above athletic director Mitch Barnhart. We don't know who. They won't point anybody out. And from my understanding, Chris Rodriguez doesn't know when he's going to be back. Mark Stoops has no idea when he's going to be back. Some administrator, some suit up there just won't make up their mind, and it's left a bunch of people in limbo, especially, going into one of the biggest games of the year.
Help me understand why the game against Miami, Ohio was so close at the half. And I do understand the issues with the running game, but it had to be more than that, right?
Well, and some of it is because you don't have Chris Rodriguez as we're in the red zone. Just give it to this guy. He's going to smash his head through a brick wall and get in the end zone. Kentucky had 4 red zone trips. One of them ended in a field goal, but it was into half. They were, they ran out of time, if you will, but Kentucky dropped a touchdown pass in one instance. And then in another, they went for it in 4th and short. And instead of having Chris Rodriguez to give the rock to, they try to throw it into the end zone. Pass gets picked off. That's really the biggest glaring difference I see in Kentucky and Florida right now is Anthony Richardson is going to be a monster down there. Like trying to stop that guy in the red zone. I don't know if anybody can do that. Kentucky, their inefficiencies really showed up in the red zone. They were able to create explosive plays in the open field. They got a kickoff return touchdown from former top 100 true freshman in Barryon Brown. There's a lot of talent at wide receiver, but they don't have that physicality in the red zone that you need to get those tough, hard to gain yards.
Let's go back to that talent in the wide receiver room too, because it looked like Will Levis was linking up with Robinson quite a bit, and that was a nice sign.
Oh, it certainly was. And Tavion Robinson, there's so many high-profile transfers nowadays that it's easy to kind of gloss over this one, especially when at Virginia Tech, that offense was haphazard. I mean, look what Hendon Hooker did just leaving after 1 year. Like that, they were hapless. In one half of football, he set his career high for receiving yards. I mean, it was that quick. He isn't Wan'Dale Robinson, and he even wants to make that clear. Even though they share the same name, they're single-digit slot receivers. The slot really does excel in this offense, getting open across the middle of the field. The first play, he broke one for 40 some odd yards. There wasn't anybody by him. Levis had all the time in the world. They really schemed it up well, but he is elusive. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he's the kind of mature, experienced one in the room. But I mentioned Brown off the top. He had 50 yards receiving. He brings the speed, right? You could see him having a push pass that he takes for 40 yards or something like that. And Dane Key is kind of the bigger target. He's from Lexington. His dad went to UK. Huge recruiting signee, had 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. So Kentucky's really flipped the roster by recruiting and really upgrading the talent in the wide receiver room. We saw a 60-40 pass run discrepancy, where in the past that had been the opposite. You've got your quarterback in Will Levis. You've got your better receivers. You're going to see the Wildcats throw the ball around a lot more this fall.
Talking to Nick Roush here on Up to the Second College Football. Last thing for you, what are the keys for Kentucky to go to the Swamp and beat a Florida team that is going to be better than what most people expected?
Well, really, they got to stop the run. And they looked apart against Miami, but that's, it's against Miami. It's a whole different ball game. J.J. Weaver is a guy you need to circle, number 13 for the UK defense. 2 years ago, he was getting his first start, former blue chip recruit, was playing well against Kyle Pitts. Best game of his career, blows his ACL out. He comes back the next year. I believe his father was murdered that year. I mean, had about as tough as a year as you possibly can. Came back, second game of the season last year. He picks off a pass against Florida. He's the kind of game-changing edge that can make those plays. In the first game last week, he had a strip sack. UK didn't recover the fumble, but he also got a deflection, blocked a punt. He's Josh Allen light. Like, he can make plays on a defense like that. You need to have game wreckers. Kentucky's defense, I think, is getting back to where they want it to be, but you got to have those playmakers. If Kentucky can stop the run, mitigate those big plays, and get a couple big plays from J.J. Weaver, this defense can do enough to put themselves in a position to win against the Gators.
That is Nick Roush from KSR. Nick, thank you so much, man. We'll do it again.
Appreciate you, David.
Thank you, man.